Welcome to Hanging in My Tree with Thomas Watson Wood. This episode is one that I've wanted to do for a while, about Thomas Watson Wood, the first husband of my great aunt Essie Lange. While not a relative by blood, his is an interesting life that needs to be remembered. So here are the facts. Thomas, or Tom, was born on 18 October 1920 at Burwood, Sydney, Australia. He was the youngest son of William Wood and Lily Jane Curson of Enfield. He had one sibling, his sister Myrtle. He married Essie Irene Lange in 1942 and had one daughter, Pamela Robin Wood. So where does he fit into the family tree? Essie was the daughter of Cecil Henry Lange and Laura Sharman, pictured here with Tom. Essie Lange was the sister of my grandfather Roy Lange and Alan Lange. Essie was the granddaughter of Henry Christopher Peter Lange, Isabel Grace Florence, Frederick Sharman, and Ellen Farquhar. Her great-grandparents' family names included Lange, Mueller, Florence, Dougal, Sharman, Hanscht, Farquhar, and Dougal, many of which have appeared in videos in Hanging in My Tree. Just before Tom's 4th birthday, his mother Lily died following a long illness. She was only 28 years of age. Tom's father, William, was left to raise Tom and Myrtle. Tom attended Enfield Primary School in 1926. Incidentally, Enfield Primary School opened 2 years earlier. Classes were segregated by gender with up to 50 students per class. There used to be a fireplace in every classroom. In 1929, when Tom was just in 4th grade, his father, William, also passed away. Tom completed his intermediate and leaving certificate from Ashfield Technical College in 1935. Whilst at school, Tom enjoyed tennis. He loved art, particularly pencil sketching, both of which were lifelong passions. His other hobbies included horse riding and making model aeroplanes. At the time, he was living at 5 Carlisle Street, Enfield. Tom obtained an indentured apprenticeship as a plumber in the Australian Gas, Light and Co. in Sydney, where he worked for 5 years from 1936 to 1941. There are some newspaper articles showing his technical college examination marks in 1937 and 1938 as a Stage 2 plumber. His enlistment records show that he also worked as a labourer and a machinist before becoming a plumber. Tom played tennis in Enfield, where he met Essie Lange in 1938. The pair began dating and announced their engagement on New Year's Eve 1941. Just prior, on 2 September 1941, he had enrolled in the RAAF and was residing at 15 Gordon Street, Petersham. World War II had commenced in September 1939. Thomas obtained leave from the Air Force to marry my great-aunt Essie Irene Lange at the Presbyterian Church at Burwood, New South Wales on 2 May 1942. Tom enlisted on the 28th of February 1942 to the Royal Australian Air Force as a pilot aircrew training unit at Sydney. His service number was 421650. The Royal Australian Air Force was formed in 1921 and expanded significantly during World War I, with 12 squadrons established or in the process of forming at the war's onset. The RAAF's training of aircrew was part of the Empire Air Training. Between 1939 and 1945, over 215,000 men and women served in the RAAF and 9,870 lost their lives. On enlistment, Tom was 21 years of age, 6 feet 1 inch, he weighed 154 pounds, blue eyes, brown hair. His religious denomination was Church of England. After completing his aircrew pilot's course, he was posted to the elementary flying training school at Temora. He was also posted at Malala in South Australia for the pilot's flying course. He was awarded his flying badge for Tiger Moths and Anson and promoted to the rank of sergeant. He was then posted to Tamworth in New South Wales to the Central Flying School, where he undertook elementary flying instructor's course, and then on 29 March 1943 he returned again to Temora as an elementary flying instructor and staff pilot. Essie followed Tom to Temora. Tom would train 6 pupils per course on the Tiger Moths. On 14 July 1943 he was promoted to flight sergeant, and his daughter Pamela was born in November in the same year. In February 1944, he was stationed as an elementary flight instructor at Kundaran in Western Australia. In April 1944, he was posted to the Central Flying School at Parkes to take his service flying instructor course in the Wirra Way. In May 1944, he was granted his commission to pilot officer and posted to a service pilot training in Deniliquin. Essie and Pamela also moved to 107 Creasy Street or 118 N Street, Deniliquin. In Deniliquin, he was promoted to flight officer and he was reassigned to be trained as a fighter pilot. To commence his fighter pilot training, he was posted to Somers, Victoria for a high altitude course, and then he was posted to number 2 OTU in Mildura, Victoria. He entered into the Fighter Operational Training Unit with 61 other pupils. 48 pupils passed this course, including Tom. The second component of the fighter pilot training was the Fighter Operational Conversion course on Kitty Hawks. This had commenced on the 5th of February. Tom was killed 3 days into this course. At his death, Tom's rank was Flying Officer of the Royal Australian Air Force at the number 2 Operational Training Unit at Mildura, Homeland Defence Militar Non-Deployed Forces. I have been given a copy of Tom's flight logbooks, which are fascinating in themselves. They're like a logbook for a learner driver's licence. They show declarations, what Tom learnt, a running total of flying hours, assessment of his flying, where he worked, and his duties in the air. 46 fatal accidents occurred at the number 2 operational unit. In 1939, a short time after the outbreak of the war, the RAAF purchased a piece of land in Mildura, which is now the Mildura Airport. The number 2 operational training unit in Mildura was established in 1942. In 1942, the 2 OTU had just 28 officers and 113 airmen, but it went on to become the largest fighter operational training unit in Australia. During this time, 52 aircrew and 7 ground crew from 2 OTU lost their lives in accidents. So what actually led to Tom's death? The briefing for the exercise was a flight duration of an hour, with the duty being aerobatics with a minimum height of 6,000 feet. Flight Lieutenant Frank Scharf had flown the aircraft before Thomas, and he met Thomas and walked him out to the Kitty Hawk that was ready on the tarmac. It is reported that they discussed the exercises, the characteristics of the aircraft. They discussed that the radio was weak and some stall speeds and trim adjustments. This was Thomas's second flight for the day. Tom climbed into the cockpit, called in and fired up. He taxied onto the runway whilst going through all his checks. He was given takeoff clearance and he was airborne at 10 a.m. Commanding officer of the Kitty Hawk Squadron Flight Officer Dyson was also airborne over Mildura and noticed smoke at 10:43 a.m. around 19 kilometres away. He had reported that the smoke colour was very reminiscent of an aircraft burning. Flight Officer Dyson contacted 2 OTU Control and advised them and said that he was going over the scene to investigate. Once he arrived, he circled the site and the scene of the fire a number of times and reported that it was indeed an aircraft burning. When the crash crew arrived, they found the body of a pilot who had been killed by crash disintegration. The disintegration of the aircraft was so complete that they could not identify the pilot and the aircraft which had crashed. By this time, the morning's exercises were complete, and the only aircraft overdue and not accounted for was Tom's plane. The matter went to the Court of Inquiry. They determined that there were no witnesses to the actual impact of the crash, which occurred at 10:40 a.m, although it has since been proven that there was at least one witness to the accident. It is reported that the inquiry found that from the position of the aircraft's remains, that it was assumed that it hit the ground in an almost vertical dive at high speed after Tom lost control of the aircraft. Structural and engine failure were ruled out as the aircraft had been fully inspected the day before and the weather was fine. Thomas's records showed that he was quite capable of completing the course, and his ability to fly the aircraft has been unquestioned. At the time of the accident, he had over 1,300 hours total flight time and almost 6 hours on Kitty Hawks. The court said there was no evidence at all given as to any indication as to the cause of the accident. There were no parts of the aircraft available for removal, only small pieces of metal were left. It was determined that on 8 February 1945 at Mildura, Victoria, Australia, at 12:45, Tom was involved in an aircraft accident when he was a pilot of the Kitty Hawk aircraft A2985, while with 2 OTU P40. After performing some aerobatics, the aircraft dived vertically into the ground near Thurla, Victoria, near Redcliffs, killing Tom. This was part of a training exercise. He crashed about 8 miles south-southwest of the Mildura aerodrome. He was only 24 when he died. His wife Essie was advised by War Casualty Telegram on 9 February 1945. At that time, Essie and his daughter Pamela were living at 22 Saxon Street, Campsie, New South Wales. From 5 April 1945, Essie received a widow's pension of around £7 for her and around £1 per fortnight for Pamela. There are some newspaper articles about his death. This was a national story. You'll see, for example, some articles from Melbourne about an airman killed and in Queensland. His military papers show that he was considered appropriate for the issues of a royal message of condolence and that message was dispatched to Essie. His personal effects included 1 pilot's badge, an officer's cap badge, a suitcase, a leather wallet, 10 photographs, a pad of drawing paper, 2 raffle tickets, 3 autographs, and a set of paints, as well as £2 6 shillings. Tom's will, dated the 16th of June 1943, named Essie as his executor and gave a gift of £55 to his sister Myrtle and the residue to his wife. Incidentally, his Commonwealth savings account only had a balance of £56. His pilot logbook was forwarded to the officer in charge. Following Tom's death, Essie and Pamela moved in with Essie's parents, Cecil and Laura Lange. By this stage, not only was Laura helping raise Pamela, but her husband Cecil would lose his leg at an injury in work on the 17th of July 1945, and her son Roy Lange, my grandfather, was away at war in the Southwest Pacific area. On 10 February 1945, Tom was buried at the Mildura Public Cemetery, Nichols Point Cemetery, War Graves, Plot C, Row C, Grave 3. His wife Essie and his sister attended the service. Tom's sister Myrtle must have been devastated by another young death and the death of her last family member. His death is commemorated in the Australian War Memorial Location Panel 113, the Roll of Honour in Burwood, near the crash site at Curralong Road, Thurla, Redcliffs, and the RAAF Memorial at the Mildura Airport. Tom's wife Essie did remarry. She had another daughter, Nola. She died many, many years later in 2008, and her funeral program gave a nod to Tom, with a plane flying, with a flag following saying, "See ya." This video was done with the permission of Tom's daughter Pamela. I could not have completed this video without the help of Tom's grandson, Peter, and I've used information published by the Mildura 2OTU Heritage Incorporation, who have Thomas's winter uniform on display. This video is created for family history purposes, so has direct quotes and pictures and documents obtained from the internet.